Hello YouTube. All right, today we got another project on the Firebird. So this car used to belong to my father, and he always had this idea that he wanted to have some red lights inside the hood scoops. And I thought it was kind of an okay idea, and I've thought about it over the years, but never really did anything with it. Now I finally decided I was gonna actually do something about it. And I experimented, I put some bulbs inside, and the bulbs didn't give the effect I was looking for. So like everybody else does, I got on Amazon, looking around, looking at different LED strip lights and motorcycle strip lights, and there was nothing really popping out at me until I came upon these LED lights that are embedded in a silicone tube, and it mimics neon, and so you don't have like the separation of lights. It's actually looks like one continuous neon light, and then being embedded in silicone, I figured it'd be nice and heat resistant as well. So what I did is I mocked up this stuff. This is what it looks like. It's a white tube, and then it's got this, like I said, it's clear silicone with red LEDs inside of it, but it looks seamless. So I mocked it up to the hood inside the scoop. So it's up inside the upper lip, and I did it on both sides. So this is the mock-up of it. And next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take it apart, and I'm gonna have to add on some cord and then put in a switch to the inside of the car so that I can control this independently. Anybody else decides they want to do this, keep in mind, most likely wherever you live, including where I live, red facing headlights or red facing lights on a car, red, blue, or green is actually illegal because those are colors for emergency vehicles. So this isn't something that you would use driving down the road. Maybe like at a cruise or something, it'd probably be okay. But this is mainly just gonna be for at a show, for pictures, stuff like that. Now, my one defense would be that the way these are gonna be angled and they're like tucked up inside the scoops, that it's not technically a red facing light because there's actually no visible light element like in a car's rear view mirror. It's more just going to be a glow coming down onto the hood from the scoop. So I really don't think I'd probably get in trouble with the law, but you never know. So I did want to put that disclaimer in, and I will put a link in the comments to the particular lights that I use because I'm really impressed with these. They're bright, they're very easy to work with, and I can see using them for a lot of different things, like maybe some under dash lights or just trimming some stuff out. I think it might look pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to undo this mock-up and add on some wire and start doing this the full way now. Okay, so before I took my mock off the car, I marked on the back side of the light how far the distance was from going around both lights, and give myself a little bit extra slop because the marks when you're supposed to cut this stuff is every 25 millimeters. So I measured it at about 28.5 inches, which converted to 723 or some odd millimeters. And then I want to round it up and give myself a little bit extra room. So I'm actually going to go to 29.5 inches. So I went ahead and I measured from the end over here, the end with the wires exposed, 29.5 inches. And when you look really close, I'm sure it's not going to show up on the camera. I made my mark there. And then when you look through, you can just make out that there's like little spaces. And I think that you need to cut on one of these little spaces, and that's your safe cutting mark. Yeah, here they kind of show up along this edge. If you look, you can see maybe there's like a little space there. And I'm not sure if that's the LED light or if that's where you're supposed to cut. That's why I wanted to give myself a little bit of extra space in case I cut it in the wrong spot. So then you just cut it, and it comes with a little rubber cap you can put over the end of it, protective, so there's no exposed electrical. Then I'm gonna need to add on some extra wiring to this exposed end so that I can route it inside the car and put it on a switch. So I plugged the lights back in for a minute just so I could double check, and it does look like that the gaps are where you cut, that the lights are in between the gaps. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut the instructions that it shows. They use something similar like a pair of tin snips. I imagine any kind of cutter you have that would work. Probably even a utility knife would work just fine. This stuff's kind of thick, so I'm just going to use some tin snips but I imagine some side cutters or something like that would work as well. Okay, I got a nice clean cut there, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the cap back on it. Okay, I got my light cut to the proper length. I've got my wires exposed, and then I'm gonna use some old speaker wire. I wanted a paired wire to make it easier for routing it through the firewall and down the length of the hood. And I've got some gray speaker wire. It should work just fine for that. Now, to make my connections, I like to use these connectors. They're called Sopaboy is the name brand of these particular ones. I buy them on Amazon. I'll put a link down in the description. But what it is you feed in your wire from either side, and then you hit it with some heat, and it's got solder in the middle. Here's the little solder band. So it's got solder in the middle, and when you hit it with the heat, it melts the solder without destroying the outside insulation. So then you end up with a soldered joint. You make the wires overlap before you hit it with the heat. And then it makes a waterproof joint because these red rings make like a waterproof glue around your wires. So you end up with a soldered waterproof joint. These are fantastic. Love these things. Use them whenever I can when I'm working on a car or boat or anything. Just they really make good solid connections. Great. It's a lot better than like twisting wires together and putting electrical tape on it or something like that. So I'm just going to use a little mini torch to heat it up. I don't know if I'll be able to get footage of that with not having somebody hold my camera for me. I don't feel like getting the tripod out, but you'll get the idea. Okay, I just want to get a close up here. So I've got the two wires overlapping inside the connector, and they overlap where the solder is. So that's right here. Now I'm just gonna hit it with a mini torch, and I'm gonna shrink both of these down and get that solder melted, make myself a nice solid connection. There, the solder just melted that quickly. Now I just wanna get the shrink tube, heat it up. And just like that, you've got yourself a nice waterproof soldered connection. Got my connection all soldered up. Now I'm just gonna touch it to the battery and make sure that the light lights up correctly just the way it should before I go ahead and start mounting the light up and running the wires to the inside of the car. Okay, there it is. Lights up. I got good connections. Let's see, my joint here, I'm gonna actually wrap that with black electrical tape just to cover up so it doesn't look so unsightly when it's running on the underside of the hood. And I also don't want like these hard connections vibrating and banging off the bottom of the hood and making noise. So I'm just gonna wrap a little bit of black electrical tape around here. Okay, so I found that in order to mount these up, I took out the hood scoops because I'm gonna mount the light behind this lip that goes behind the hood scoop. So with the scoop out, it gives me more room to see what I'm doing. Plus, I need to clean up the area. You've got all this dust, and I'm gonna use 3M double-sided mounting tape. And in order for it to stick better, I need to clean all this dust off. So I'm just gonna use some rubbing alcohol and a rag here and just wipe all the dust down. To mount this, I'm just gonna use some 3M double-sided tape here, real nice sticky stuff. The thickness of it, or the width, is just about the same width as the light. So I'm just gonna lay the light out flat, and then I'm gonna run the 3M tape down it, and I'll leave the backing on until I'm ready to actually put it in place. Then I'll start pulling the backing off and tucking it in place as I go along there. Got the 3M tape laid on here. Applies real nice. It's almost exactly the right width. So now I'm just gonna start peeling back the backing on it, and I'm gonna tuck it up inside. Got this lip right here, and that's where the light's gonna go, is behind that lip. So it's almost hidden, but if you squat it down, you'd be able to see the light. And then I'm just gonna run it across. Rather than make two separate light bands, I'm just gonna run the band across. You'll never see it with the hood down anyway, and it looks kind of cool even with it up anyhow, this bright red stripe across here. So I'm gonna start it over here. Actually, I'm gonna start on this side because this is where the wire is gonna run down. The wire is gonna run down and then through that hole, and I'll run it through the firewall to a switch on the inside. So I'll start on this side and then work my way across to that side. right, so the wire is routed down through the hood. Just use some more of the double-sided tape, and then routed it down through that hole there and down through the firewall. I put a switch on the inside and wired it to 12-volt hot so I can just turn it on without having to have the engine running. Make sure it's a fuse connection. And now I'm going to lower the hood down, take a look and see how this thing looks. Okay, well, I hope that helped anybody that was interested in doing a project like this. I really like the result. I think it looks awesome. It's nice and subtle. You really can't see the light, so it's not a forward-facing light. So hopefully I'm not breaking the law if I use it while I was driving. I don't think that this would be considered breaking the law, but I'm still only going to use it at shows or cruises, something like that. Anyway, there's links below in the description for the products that I used. And please give us a like, subscribe, comment, sure appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Bye.